What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to a new year of the Meep Meep Nation podcast and UTSA football. I'm David, and I'm here joined with Kelechi, a former UTSA football player, now working in the real world. Kelechi, how you doing?
Man, doing good. Doing good, Dave. Let's get this thing rolling, man.
How's the graduated life treating you?
It's been different, man, but I'm real excited for the season still, just like I'm playing.
Yeah.
Still got a lot of boys on the team, man, so I'm excited.
No, I think everyone is, especially coming off last year being so close to the American Conference Finals. I think the team's just as good as they were last year. I think we have a new quarterback at the helm, so that's going to be something different to see this year compared to Frank. So I think there's a lot of kind of interesting things coming up this season that UTSA football hasn't seen in a while. What are your thoughts?
I definitely think, this first year, the post Frank Harris era, man, I'm excited just to see how that's gonna look. Man, we have great offensive coaches, great offensive minds. So I know there's not gonna be any drop off. I'm just kind of curious, how it's gonna look and everything. Really like a fan this year. I haven't been to any other practices or anything. So
Yeah, sure. You're getting the outside perspective now that you're not involved. And I think one of the biggest things, like I said, is post Frank Harris era. Like, what's that going to look like for UTSA football? Because we haven't seen it in so long. Like, it seems like when you see UTSA football, you see Frank Harris. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how the offense looks this year without Frank Harris, without Cephas, without all those guys. I think it's just going to look really different. But I'm excited because maybe that brings a new dynamic into the team that we haven't seen before.
exactly, man. I will say there's probably gonna be a lot more. Frank was really good at off script plays, and just making a play.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to how that aspect is going to be now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we will have to, scheme more guys open and stuff, kind of stuff like that more now, which, we have that in our playbook. So I'm just excited to see it, man. I'm excited to see the guys make some plays.
No, it's true, especially with Owen or Eddie Lee, whoever it is ends up starting. It's going to be interesting because neither of them have a ton of experience.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very interesting to see how the offensive coordinators go about that because Frank was so much older and had so much more game experience, so he could go off the script and be able to run 5 or 6 plays without the offensive coordinator even needing to say anything. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of leash they give these new guys when it comes to that.
For sure, man. For sure. Especially like protection checks, calling out cat blitzes, little things like that, man. That's what I'm curious to see.
Yeah. Especially for a younger quarterback, it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how that looks. And I mean, we have a few transfers coming in on the offense with a new left tackle, a new center, and right tackle. So beefed up our offensive line a lot, which I think is going to be really good for a younger quarterback to give them some more time to make the reads, make the checks that they need to, and then they'll be able to help as well, identifying blitzes and things like that. So I think for a younger quarterback, it's going to be really good to have those guys with experience in front of them.
Man, absolutely, man. And because those guys back there, they're talented. Eddie and Owen, big arms, man, really way more mobile than you would, kind of just guess by looking at them. Like they're pretty mobile.
Yeah.
Really good throwing the ball on the run, man. Just deep ball, nice deep ball. I'm expecting a lot of big connections with Chris Carpenter down the field, man. That's what I'm ready to see.
Yeah, Chris Carpenter, Devin McEwen. We got Oscar, lost a lot of weight. So he's going to be definitely a big receiving threat this year. And I think for a younger quarterback, a good tight end is always a nice thing to have because that's the guy you kind of rely on that, hey, if I need to check it down, he's going to be open. And I can expect him to catch the ball 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, man.
And I think the defense is looking just as good too. I mean, we have a lot of returners on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I knew the defense was going to be fine. Man, just because of the philosophy they have, like Coach Lett, man, he's just such a good coach. The way that they teach is not as much X's and O's. It's just more about mentality, and just how like they have a certain look that they look for, like in players and stuff. So I know there's going to be no drop off with the defense, especially in the back end, man. With Ken Robinson coming back and Elliot Davidson, those are some playmakers right there.
Oh yeah,
some playmakers.
And I think especially the defensive line is going to be huge. Losing Trey last year to the transfer portal, I think the DNs are really going to have to step up. And I know there's plenty of talent behind him, and so I think they're going to be great. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the defense looks like filling that void without Trey there.
No, yeah, for sure. Definitely going to have to. We got away with just being able to rush 4 a lot last year. That's a great luxury for a defense. Just because Trey is just so talented, man. But Hey, we still got some guys. Joe, B. Brown. I seen on the depth chart that Cyrus Simon starting. He definitely
Hmm.
deserves it, man. He's been waiting this time, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see him start this year.
Hmm.
Ronald Triplett,
Yeah.
Danye Taylor.
Yep.
He's playing that Sam position, so sometimes they're in coverage, sometimes they blitz, but
Hmm.
he's actually a really, really good pass rusher. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they use him now.
Yeah, I know he was always a big threat off the edge as the delayed blitzes and things like that, and then was a great coverage linebacker too. And so that's a really nice thing to have him coming back. And then as well, you have Denver, the transfer coming in playing corner. I think it's going to be huge because I think the biggest thing for UTSA has always been their secondary. They've been really good, and so
Mhm.
I think that's going to be one of the biggest things this coming into this year is going to be, hey, how can we secure the pass game in order to let our front four do the work?
For sure. And I'm excited to see which corner kind of takes that step.
Yeah.
Going into the season, my
Hmm.
guess would be Zay Frazier. I
Hmm.
mean, just talk about everything you would want like a prototype corner,
Yeah.
just big, long, fast. And they have one of the best corners coaches in all of college football, Coach
Mhm.
Graham. So definitely don't have to worry about that room at all.
Yeah, and I think this game against Kennesaw is going to be interesting because again, Kennesaw is not a big team, so I think it's going to be good to be able to kind of see, hey, how's the team going to look this year? Like what kind of looks are they going to give? And I think it's going to give Coach Taylor a chance to test things out against a team like Kennesaw State. I think he'll be able to see, hey, I like this way this looks, this doesn't look, things like that. I think kind of what are your thoughts going into the first game?
One thing about Coach Taylor, he doesn't take any opponent lightly. So they're
Hmm.
going to be in there preparing like they're playing Alabama week
Yeah.
one, and yeah. But as far as game plan, I haven't watched much Kennesaw State. I know that
Yeah.
they do like to throw the ball sideways, get their playmakers the ball in space. From what I've seen,
Yeah.
which kind of plays in our hand. We're a base cover four team.
Hmm.
Danye to the field, yeah. So we're going to be really good against those screens. The way that Coach Let plays the safeties, where it's just so aggressive, man.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited to see, and just I'm just ready to see that brand of football being played again. And I would definitely say that in games like this, your advantage is in the trenches.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to play a lot more coverage, not a lot of blitzes, which
Uh
is
huh.
cool because Coach Let comes up with a few blitzes every week. That isn't on film. So yeah, I'm just curious. I know he's going to keep his cards close to his chest unless he needs to.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think for UTSA it's going to be huge. I think kind of shake the rust off a little bit of the off season. I know you probably know this better than anyone, but when you've been practicing for so long, it's like now it's finally here. It's game
Yeah,
time. And I think they're going to come out amped. I know that first game of the year, no matter who it is such a big moment, not only for the players but for fans as well. I mean, everyone's waiting for college football to come back, and it's the weekend. It's happening. I know for me, like being like graduating now, I think it's been weird because I'm like, oh, college football's starting. Because like
yeah.
normally around campus, that's the buzz. Is, hey, college football's starting. And I mean, it being graduated now, you don't really realize it. And you're like, oh, it's here. And I'm excited, man. I love UTSA football, and I'm excited to see how they do this year.
No, yeah, same man. I mean, speaking on what you just said, I mean, I was in my bed last week, turned on the TV. I'm like, oh snap, Florida State's playing. I had no
Yeah,
idea. Like,
yeah.
so yeah,
No,
definitely just out of that loop now. But man, I'm excited. I'm so ready to be able to watch just college football all Saturday, just not
oh yeah,
move at all.
100%, 100%. And I think it's gonna be really interesting because like now the 12-team playoff coming out. I think the group of five battle now is gonna be even more intense than it's been in the past because now the best group of five team gets an automatic bid in the college football playoff. And I mean, you look at it, you have like Texas State's gotten a lot better with a whole bunch of their transfers coming in. I mean, UTSA is still going to be good. You've got like Coastal and teams like that are always really good group of five teams. So I think the battle for that one group of five entry is going to be massive this year.
Man, yeah, talk about it. Just it's gonna be a bloodbath. I will
Mhm.
say, Coach Traylor, he kind of already knew that this format was coming, and
Yeah.
he used to tell us all the time. He's like, man, like we're gonna be a team competing for playoffs, but like we could get matched up with the Georgia,
Yeah.
Alabama and whatnot. Like those are all real like opportunities now.
Hmm.
So it's not gonna be anything like new for the guys. We prepare just like those guys prepare, man. So
Yeah.
I definitely think out of the G5 teams, us, Texas State, Boise has a really good team coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I think those are really like the in Tulane for sure. I think
Yeah.
those are the leading candidates right now to make that last spot.
No, and if you look, I've been seeing a lot of the college football people posting. If you look at like what kind of the biggest matchups of the year are, that UTSA Texas State game is high up on a lot of people's boards because that's a very big like, hey, whoever wins that game has a much better chance of getting into that Group of 5 spot because again, the transfers that came in at Texas State this year, GJ Kinney brought in so many guys this offseason to come play for him, and again, UTSA brought a lot of returners back, and so I think it's going to be a really good game. Even though UTSA is 5-0 on them in the past, I think they're definitely much better than they have been in previous years.
I definitely think this is the most talented Texas State team they have had the past probably 6 years. Definitely since I've been in school.
Yeah.
Their quarterback that they got transferred from dang, I forgot school, but he was the Sun Belt Player of the Year, So he's coming in. He made the other guy, TJ Finley, he was really good for them last year.
Yeah.
Especially when we matched up with him. He was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, just GJ Kinney, man, he's a really good coach, really good offensive mind.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Coach Traylor, just getting the most out of his guys. And their offensive scheme is just really good. They know how to stretch you vertically and horizontally.
Yeah.
And they, believe it or not, they hang their hat on running the ball. And that was one of the keys for when we played them was like, it's going to be really, really tough to stop them if they can run the ball when they want.
Yeah.
So you just have to get them out of the run game early, make them pass first, and that's when the game changed for when we played them. And I'm sure that's going to be the game plan again.
Yeah, I'm sure. And again, like I said, it's always it's a rivalry game, but now on top of that, you got two really good football teams now going at it. I think that game is going to be on ESPNU for a group of 5 teams to be on ESPNU like that on just a regular Saturday is absolutely awesome. So I think everyone's really excited to see that game come out and see who ends up winning that because again, I think it's got huge implications for who gets that group of 5 spot for the playoff.
Man, absolutely, man. Talk about playoff implications in a game so early in the season too.
Mm-hmm. No, sure. It's like what, a third week 3 of the season, and you're almost gonna basically eliminate one team out of that group of 5, like running, because I mean, if it ends up going head to head, they're gonna look and say who won the head to head matchup, and that's gonna be it.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be really interesting. And then I mean, UTSA is playing Texas again this year. I think that's gonna be even last year we took them 3.5 quarters. And so I think this year we have more experienced guys. I think they really know kind of what they're up against now because they played them already. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they do.
Oh man, that game! I can't wait for that game.
Yeah.
One thing I know how Coach Traylor is, man. He's not going to go into any game, thinking that we're undermatched or anything like that. Like he's going to go in that game. He always says, like, I'm going in the game and we're going to go try and win.
Yeah.
And I remember the last time we played them. He came out. I think it was after we took like a 7-point lead. Onside kicked them. We get it back.
Yeah.
Like he's that kind of coach. Like he's gonna do whatever he can, try and get us that advantage to win. I will say we do have to game plan for Trey. I know he's gonna be extra motivated for that game right there. But yeah, man, just a hell of a player. I'm, still excited to see him play this year. Even though he left us.
No, of course. Even then, he's built by UTSA, right?
Yeah,
I mean
sure.
that's what made him famous. And so I think it's really cool to see. Like it sucks that he left, but it's cool to see a guy that he went to UTSA and now he's on all these watch lists, starting at Texas. Like I think it's really cool to see.
Yeah, man. But when we played them, they had, generational running backs. Bijan and Roshan were really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
Their whole O line is going to be returning, which is unfortunate for us.
Yeah,
because they were really, really talented when we played them, and they were all freshmen. So I can't imagine them all now. So
yeah, no, sure, it's gonna be really interesting because like you said, I mean, the good thing is that they're gonna have some game film on Trey, and then kind of know how he likes to operate, practicing with him, playing with him, things like that. You're gonna know how it works, but still, I mean, the guy's a beast. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how they game plan. And not only the offense, but the defense. Because, again, Texas has Quinn Ewers. They got Jaden Blue. They got all those guys on the offense that are just weapons. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how do we game plan to beat them.
No, yeah, same, man. Because Sark is just such a unique offensive mind. Like his gap schemes for running, man, it's pretty insane. And then when we played them, they had Xavier Worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So their play action game was their bread and butter right there. Just play action crossers and all kinds of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we played a lot of cover three. I'm really curious to see how we match up with them this year, man.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I mean, for the most part, I think Tulane's still going to be good this year in the American. UTSA is always going to be up there. It's going to be really interesting to see who kind of comes out of the American because there's always one team every year that kind of like surprises people and is like, oh,
Yeah,
they're good. So it's going to be really interesting
yeah,
to see who ends up coming out of the American as like one of the under the radar teams.
yeah. I would say definitely some teams to watch. East Carolina. East Carolina was really, really talented last year when we played them. A lot of young
Mhm.
cats that could roll, man.
Yeah,
Temple's really good. I think every American game schedule that we have, especially Army, like those are
yeah.
all going to be tough. Like there's no layups in the American, that's for sure.
Yeah, Army is one of those teams, man. It seems like they've always had the UTSA number. Like it's always been a really close game. It's like it's one of those things you know it's coming, but they're just so big and so physical. It's hard to stop.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Some of them not so big. I just feel like they're just wired a little different. Like the the way that they are when we're playing them. This last time we played them,
Mhm.
in Army. So we
Yeah,
played them in Army. I'm
yeah,
talking about it's 1st and 10. They get 3 yards. They're cheering. They're like, "Let's go!" Like it was just the craziest thing. I'm like, bro, y'all got 3 yards. Like we were excited. We just held up three
yeah,
yards, and they're excited that they got it. But man, that's just the tough part about playing them, man. It's 4 downs like every
yeah,
time because they go for it on 4th down every
yeah.
single time.
They don't punt.
Yeah, they're not punting.
Yeah, and yeah, I think East Carolina is one of those sneaky teams from what I've seen that they haven't been good recently, but that's just they've been so young. I think their offense that I've always seen they know how to throw the ball. They're really good at moving the ball down the field. So it's going to be really interesting now that those guys have matured a little bit how good they're going to be.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping a couple other guys would leave in the portal, just because they had they had really like two really good young receivers. Their quarterback was really good too. Good tight end. Like they have a lot of weapons on offense, a lot of weapons on defense. I think really the only thing, well, the biggest advantage we had when we played them was
Uh-huh.
definitely our D line.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, skill players, man, they have a lot of really good skill players, and that's one of the
Mhm.
teams. I'm like, okay, they have a dark horse chance for sure.
Yeah, and again, even though I know North Texas had a lot of transfers, but they're always a game that's circled on the calendar. The Texas State game and the North Texas game are always two of the really big games on UTSA's schedule. And again, I don't know how good they're going to be this year, but I think that's going to be one that's like okay, like that's going to be another one that's always going to be circled on the calendar.
Oh yeah, rivalry games, man.
Oh yeah,
Regardless of records or anything,
oh
they're
yeah.
gonna bring their best foot forward for sure.
And they're going to pull out there's no stops. Just like for them, this game is circled on their calendar too. So they're going to pull out
Yeah,
all the tricks, everything that they possibly can throw at you and try and beat you because again, the rivalry games anything can happen. Like you just I mean, it's not a rivalry game, but Florida State just lost to Georgia Tech, like which was huge. I mean, Florida State was ranked 10 going into the season. And
yeah,
so that's a big loss week 0. And so I think it's one of those things, and especially now with the way college football is, with it being so offensive oriented, there's not really many stops in people's playbooks anymore where they're like, okay, yeah, this is all we're gonna do. They'll pull out
yeah.
everything to beat somebody.
No, yeah. Offensive schemes nowadays are just so advanced, and I would say so adaptable. Like regardless of the defense that you're playing, how you're gonna play,
Mm-hmm.
their offensive schemes, man, it's like they're just so malleable. They're good against everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have checks for whatever.
Yeah.
Speaking on North Texas, I'm not sure if their offensive coordinator is back, but last year their offense was explosive, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
they reminded me a lot of Western Kentucky's
Yeah.
like route schemes.
Yeah.
A lot of post wheels and
Yeah.
just deep deep explosive plays. And
Yeah. I
anytime you
mean,
play a team, yeah, anytime you play a team like that, man, they always have a chance because they can score quick.
yeah. I mean, it was like Zappy. Zappy had like the most yards in college football ever that year. Threw for like 4,300 yards or something like that. And so it's like that's their offense, especially those teams that aren't great on defense. They're going to try and score. They just want to put up as many points as possible and say, hey, I'm going to score more points than you in this
Oh
game.
yeah,
And it's like, it's not about, okay, we're not going to get that many stops on defense. We're just going to outscore you. And that's the
yeah,
fact of the matter. And so I think that's one of those teams, like you said, that their defense may not be great, but they're going to come out and they're going to score points. And so I think that's always a big one. And so it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how those teams come out and play. And again, there's a few teams that I think Memphis has always been good. They're always a good, solid American team. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that game goes. But our out-of-conference schedule this year is definitely a little bit better, a little bit easier than previous years. Because, I mean, you really only have Texas this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see if UTSA can come out of there 3-1. Say it's a loss to Texas like that. I'd say it's off to a really good start for the year.
I definitely think that's probably best case scenarios coming out 3-1. Man, because Kennesaw State, I have a 99% chance feeling like in my gut that we're gonna win that game.
Yeah.
Texas State, we don't lose to them, but
no,
man, they're a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And who else is the other?
It's Houston Christian.
Okay, yeah. So we should win that game for sure. Yeah.
And so, like I said, 3-1 is the best case scenario. And then again, it's so hard with the American because it's like you said, there's not really like those teams that are like layups. Like it seems like every team fights hard. It's not like there's a team that's just like egregiously bad. And so it's always really interesting with the American schedule because at any point, I think any team could beat anyone. Like there's not like okay, yeah, this is like a guaranteed win almost. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how this year kind of progresses.
No, yeah, man, so exciting. I mean, the race last year was so close. It was.
Yeah.
I remember going into maybe 2 weeks left of conference play or 1 week left, and it was like UTSA, SMU, Memphis, and I want to say one other team, and we were all tied. Yeah, and Tulane, we were all tied with like one or zero conference losses. I'm like, man, like this could shape out anyway.
Yeah.
So I definitely think Memphis is probably going to be our biggest challenge in conference.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's going to be, like I said, it's so many teams are so competitive in the American. And so, yeah, I think, and especially because we play Memphis towards the end of the season. So that's going to be another game. And then especially the last game of the season, we're playing Army. And so I think it's just going to be really interesting to be like, okay, kind of where is UTSA at? And I think it's going to be really interesting just because the lack of experience in our quarterbacks, just because they haven't had much game experience. So coming down to those last few weeks when we're, say, tied for the lead or whatever it is, to be able to go into those games and be like, okay, let's just focus on this game at hand right now, and let's just keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, like speaking on that, is I saw a graphic that came up the other day. Coach Traylor has the best record in the past couple years in one-score games. And, I mean, talk about just not only a testament to Frank, but just a testament to our whole offense. I mean, we put them in some very bad situations, but it's like regardless of whatever we needed, a field goal, a touchdown, they came up with it, man. So that's another thing that I'm curious to see because Frank, he was just really, really good, man, and in those last second moments, like I feel like that's really one of the most underrated things about him. He was just so clutch. He was really clutch, man.
No, it's true. And like we talked about the experience. And so it's going to be interesting in one-score games, say we have those this year, how does Owen or how does Eddie Lee react? Because, again, the experience just isn't there. And so I think that's one of the biggest question marks people have coming to this year is like, okay, what's the quarterback going to look like post Frank Harris? Because, again, for the last 4 years now, I think that's all we've seen is Frank Harris. And so it's just going to be like, okay, what's this team going to look like now without him?
Yeah. Yeah, and I know Coach Traylor's he's been kind of preparing like for this moment right now.
Yeah.
But I think now we just got to lean on our playmakers more. Really looking forward to when JT comes back. I know he's been killing his rehab, man, and really putting his best foot forward. He attacks every day in that rehab room. It's definitely exciting to see, and I hope for the best for him this year.
Yeah.
But until he comes back, I think the go-to guy is going to be Devin McEwen. He's just, I mean, reliable hands, explosive, great routes. You could put him at any wide receiver position, X, Z, Y. Like he's going to be dynamic, and I'm just glad he's going to get this stage. Even though he was freshman all conference and all, I'm just excited for him to see this stage where he really gets a chance to be the man.
Yeah, I mean, you think him, and then basically our running backs, you got Kavorian, Robert, and Rocco. I think that they're going to be. I think the run game has always been a big part of UTSA football, just to open up the pass game because. Again, it seems like UTSA, when they ran the football well, they were able to get the passing game going because they would key so hard on the run. So it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be really good this year, especially for having a young quarterback, them being able to get the run game going, to give him some time, some breathing room. So okay, I have some time to throw the ball now.
Yeah, and I mean, thank the Lord we got some vets back there. I think Kavorian, Rob, and Rocco are all seniors too.
Yeah.
Like that's an experienced group.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely gonna lean on them. Coach Traylor loves like that's his philosophy. Like he always says, he's like, I don't care if there's 8 people in the box. If we need to get a yard, I want to be able to hand the ball off and get a yard. Like
Yeah.
that's how you know a real tough team is, man. When you need a yard, just hand it off and let's get a yard. So
Yeah.
I definitely think he's gonna lean more on those guys for sure. And that's always kind of been how he is. But a lot of our offense is RPOs, which I
Yeah.
didn't know, but I would say a good percentage of every play that we run is an RPO. So with Frank being so experienced, and he's seeing all those safeties come down quick, he's able to, make those quick reads and
Yeah.
whatnot. But yeah, a lot of our offense, man, is definitely predicated on that run.
Yeah, and I'll be really interested, especially this week, because I've been seeing stuff on Twitter and things like that the quarterback race has been so close between Eddie and Owen. So I'll be interested to see if they split time this week or whoever gets the majority of the snaps or what. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how it goes about this week.
Oh yeah, for sure, and I'm excited to see who gets that first series, because that
Yeah.
first series would tell me a lot.
Yeah.
I know Coach Traylor, he doesn't want to have a 2 quarterback system,
Yeah.
but I mean, if he needs to, he will.
Yeah.
But definitely, I don't think anybody would just want to have that battle kind of going into the season.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, so I'm just excited to see which guy, really shows out and makes that leap, because I mean they're both really, really talented, man,
Mhm.
and just very deserving too of this starting
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, and I think for like, especially in offense, when you have that 2 quarterback thing going, it makes it hard because you're one guy, especially now because one's lefty and one's righty, and so I mean, I'm sure the
Yeah.
ball's coming into receivers really different. You're receiving the ball different as a running back, and so I'm sure you got to have one guy coming in because that's the guy you got to get used to, especially as a receiver or a running back, and even as like a lineman, the guy which way the guy likes to roll out. Like normally, righty's gonna like to roll out right, lefty's gonna like to roll out left, and so I think you need that consistency at quarterback in order to help your offense out.
No, yeah, that was a great point you just brought up, the lefty and righty.
Yeah.
I know that all the calls, like whenever you have a lefty in, they're like reverse named or something like that. So like just even little stuff like that can lead
Yeah.
to some MAs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I know that's hard on all the other guys. And the difference between catching a fast ball coming from a lefty and a righty, man,
Oh
it's
yeah.
yeah, it's way different. So I'm already knowing about that too.
Yeah. It's gonna be really interesting, and I'm really excited for UTSA football this year.
No, yeah, same man, same. Should be a really good year, man. I would say even if the first out of conference games don't go how we plan, I would say just not to give up on us, man. Like we know like when the games count, like what to do,
Yeah.
and I feel like regardless of how these out of conference games go, we're gonna gain that experience. Get that feel for what kind of team we are,
Mm-hmm.
and we're really gonna hone in on that and have a real good conference play, because we hang our hat on being good in the conference.
Yeah.
Only just a few conference losses the past like 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
I'm
think he's
excited to
only
see
got
that.
4 or 5. I don't think it's
Hmm.
been too many. And Traylor, the thing I've noticed about Traylor in his 5 years here or so, going into his 5th year, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
He knows how to win, and watching him play football, especially in those close games, like watching him coach a team, is amazing. Like I don't think I've ever seen a team be able to finish games off as well as UTSA has in the past.
No, yeah, and I would say that's one great trait about Coach Traylor. He knows how to get the most out of his players. That is for sure.
Yeah.
And like that last minute, fourth quarter clutch up.
Mm-hmm.
We need to clutch up. I say that we instill that in our off-season program. We instill that in camp and in just everyday life. So when those moments come, you're comfortable. You're not,
Yeah.
anxious or anything like that. So that's a real testament to him, man. Just always making sure his guys are ready to go. Coaches don't panic. Everybody's just calm, relaxed, and ready to go and ready to really execute in those times, because that's when it really matters.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, being an outsider, like I was an athlete, but I didn't play football, so I'm kind of looking at it as an outsider perspective. But talking to everyone on the football team and watching them play, I can definitely see that, and it's amazing. And I'm sure it's going to continue again this year, just based off the way Coach Traylor is. Like he wants to win, and he's going to win, kind of by any means necessary.
No, for sure, man. Just a great coach. One of the best coaches I've ever seen, man. Just a great coach. Shout out to Coach Traylor.
Yeah. All right, Kelechi. I appreciate you, man. I enjoyed it. It's gonna be interesting to watch this Week 1 matchup against Kennesaw State, and I'm excited. We'll see you next week, and we'll be able to talk about game recap and kind of what we saw and things like that.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, appreciate you, Dave. I'm ready. I'm looking forward to the game, man.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.